Hey everybody, it is time for social studies today, and we are still talking about Spanish missions in Texas. So, Spanish missions in Texas, they were a place that people could go to church and people could go to school. There were workshops so people could learn how to make pottery, baskets, and any other items. So, some of those Native Americans chose to move their families into the missions, and others were forced. So, sometimes it was their choice and they wanted to, and sometimes they were forced and they by the Spanish people, and they did not get a choice to move in there or not to move in there. The missions that offered them food, they gave them shelter, and if they did the work, they would get their food and they would get their shelter so they could live there. So because some Native Americans were forced into the missions by the Spaniards, they were very, very, very angry about that. And they started attacking these missions. So then the Spanish built these things called Presidios. Those are forts around the missions as a form of protection from these attacks. So the Spanish said, here are these missions. You can go to school here. You can go to church here. We'll give you food. We'll give you shelter. All you have to do is work for us. So some people were like, oh, that sounds great. And they just did it. And then some of the Native Americans were like, oh, no, we already have a way of life. We're not doing that. And they were forced to live there. So if you were forced out of your home, you'd probably be pretty angry too, right? So they decided to fight back. And that's when Spaniards made these presidios, which are like forts. Okay, so remember, I move around a lot on social studies. So Mission Sleta was the first Spanish mission in Texas. The building has been restored over time, so it's not exactly what it was a long time ago, but it is the basics of what it was a long time ago. So here's some pictures. You can see the outside here. Remember, it's been restored. That means it's been fixed from all of the wear and tear over the years. But here's some pictures. Pretty cool, right? It's cool that it's still there. So many times the villas or the towns, they would grow in between the mission and the fort. So this would allow people there to be able to provide goods and services to those living on the missions and the forts. Jose de Escandon founded over 20 villas in several missions. He was known as the father of the Lower Rio Grande Valley. And so that was Jose de Escandon. So for the people living in the villas, they came from so many different places like Africa and Mexico and the Canary Islands. So with the new people that were coming to the land, they brought with them so many different cultures. The Spaniards brought horses, so that allowed those Native Americans to travel easier because they didn't have that before. They also brought new food, new music, and in turn for all of those new things, the Native Americans would teach them how to farm the land and get food and grow food. So as more people started to move to Texas, the demand for resources increased. They needed more things because more people were coming. So the economy went from almost all farming to like a very diverse economy of goods and services of all different types. So today we can still see that Spanish heritage in Texas. It's in the language, the names of the cities, the arts, and let me tell you, the good food. You guys know that. So I want to take a look at this anchor chart and just talk a little bit about Spanish missions some more. So remember, a mission, that's the settlement where religion is taught. So the first one was Mission Sleta, and that's the one that I showed you that has been restored. Then there were Presidios. So outside of the missions, Presidios were formed, and those were forts with the Spanish soldiers that were there to protect the mission. And then there were villas. So these were towns that grew near those forts, those Presidios. So there were missions, Presidios, and villas. So think of a mission as a settlement where religion was taught. Presidio is a fort and a villa is a town. I know that's a lot of new vocabulary, but you guys will get used to it. So tomorrow we're going to talk about, that was all of when Spain came to Texas, and they started creating these missions and these presidios and villas. But tomorrow we're going to talk about France's exploration. We're going to talk about La Salle the most, and that's a man who came over here, and he was one of the French explorers. So today for your assignment, I want you to get out a piece of paper, and you are going to draw an advertisement for a Spanish mission. So if you were a Spaniard, and you were trying to convince Native Americans to live in your mission, how would you do that? So you're going to create an advertisement. Advertisement is one page, and it's a nice little drawing and like maybe some words, some sayings, trying to convince them to come and live in your mission. It could be like a flyer. You've ever seen flyers, like lost dog flyers that they tack up on telephone poles? You can that's what you're creating. So you're going to create a flyer, an advertisement, trying to get Native Americans to come and live in your mission. So remember, that's where religion was taught. So I would say something like, I'll give you food, I'll give you shelter. I might draw the mission and say, come live here. Draw your mission and say, I'll provide food and shelter. All you have to do is work. Try and convince the Native Americans to come live in your mission. When you're done with that, that flyer, that advertisement, I want you to take a picture of it and turn it into Canvas. All right, guys, I love you so much. Have fun.